Hello everyone and welcome back to my challenge where I try to beat Plants vs Zombies 2 with only flowers. This is the 7th and last part, and if this is the first part that you are seeing, I'd recommend you watch all of the previous parts beforehand, which are all linked in the description. Only 2 worlds remain, so without further ado, let's finish off this challenge by moving on to the Hydrothermic Hollow.
Am I glad he's frozen in there and that we're out here and that he's the sheriff and that we're frozen out here and that we're in there and I just remembered we're out here. What I want to know is where's the caveman?
Welcome to the Hydrothermic Hollow, a frostbitten wasteland that's taken place decades after my journey through the frostbite caves. Now, while there isn't any new gimmicks in this world, something new was added to the sliding tile gimmick, which is the ability for them to change direction at any time, more specifically during like flags and stuff. And I also started using the Sabi Whip in the second rows in order to keep my non-fire plants from being frozen, so I can get like more sun and stuff. And also this level was easy, so let's continue on. Day 2 has nothing much to talk about, or was anything challenging at all, so let's just continue on. Day 3 is a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 4 has me ash 75 zombies, but with the added caveat of that all plants who can ash zombies are banned, with a level wanting me to use flame weed in order to complete this objective. Now, you may think that I would call this level impossible because of this, but there is in fact one plant they forgot to ban who does have the ability to cause zombies to ash: cactus. You can do so thanks to their plant food, and along with bringing cold snapdragon, who is the only plant that I have who couldn't be frozen, so I have no way to unfreeze the rest of my plants, I was able to beat the level. So take that, free flourish devs. I don't need your flame weed. My flowers can handle it just fine. Day 5 introduces the Shell Shock Hunter Zombie, who may just look like a tankier Hunter Zombie, but they do have some tricks of their own up their sleeves, like throwing balls of ice instead of snow, which will both instantly freeze plants with one ball, but can also deal damage to plants as well, which includes fire plants, meaning I can't just place a fire plant in front of them and completely counter their entire gimmick. But they have the only weakness of just throwing one ball at a time, which means I can kill them before they become too much of a threat. And even with this brand new threat to this icy realm, I beat the level and can continue on. Day 6 has me protect 2 pepper bolts. And while this level did take a few attempts to complete, maybe because of the troglodytes crushing them with their ice blocks, but thanks to using Dandelion, I managed to come out on top after a couple of tries, so let's continue on. Day 7 introduces the Charred Zombie, who's immune to fire damage, meaning I'll have to bring along a non-fire plant in order to take care of them. So, bringing along Red Stinger along with Sabi Whip, this level was beaten without too much issue. Day 8 is a locked and loaded level, so skip. Day 9 introduces the Chief Zombie, who uses ice magic that he very much knows how to use, and summon an icy wind whenever he wants to. This also is the level where they start using gravestones, which work like every other gravestone, so nothing new there. Oh, and this is the only level where I use Holy Barrier, who's apparently a flower according to an event that the Reflourish devs did, so I'm allowing them. And they just make weaker walls, and that's it. This level is also easy, so let's continue on. Day 10 is a locked and load level, so skip. Day 11 has the Rot taking over the right side of the lawn, making it almost impossible to plant anything over there, along with spawning tons of gravestones throughout the level to move my close attacking plants all over the place. But besides that, this level was easy though, so let's continue on. Day 12 is a mini moss bubble that I would like to talk about, because it's actually pretty cool, but sadly it's just a locked and loaded level, so skip. Day 13 introduces the Weasel Queen Zombie, who summons blue weasels who are both tankier but at the cost of their speed, along with summoning an army of both normal and blue weasels at the end of the lawn. But, just like normal weasels, they are no match for the power of fire, so even with this large weasel army, this level was easy. Day 14 has me stop the zombies from trampling a row of flowers, which includes weasels on their own to try and rush me down when I least expect it. But thanks to the power of cactus and their plant food, this level was beaten, so let's continue on. Day 15 is a plan your defense level, so skip. Day 16 introduces the Chief Hailstorm Zombie, who's an imposer of that mini-boss I mentioned 4 levels ago. And using their better ice magic, they summon an icy tornado, which will both chill my plants, but also give zombies in its path a buff, making them both tougher and giving them stun immunity. Meaning that you can see zombies walk with butter on their head, which is pretty cursed if you ask me. But using Daisy Chain and Vanilla, and Wasabi Whip of course, I beat the level without too much of an issue. So, let's continue on. Day 17 has me make sure 40 zombies get buffed by the Chief Hailstorm's ability, which was pretty easy because they gave me an entire frozen row of them at the start of the level. And while the buff zombies did give me some issues, I still managed to come out on top and completed the level. Day 18 is locked and loaded level, so skip. Day 19 is also a locked and loaded level, so once again, skip. Day 20 is just the zombie boss level, so now I discussed the world and I really liked it. It's just more Frostbite Caves, which, you know, I already really liked, so yeah, I'm really happy about this world. I like all the new zombies, even though most of them are just from the Chinese version. They're still really fun to deal with, and I thought I had to actually think a lot for these levels. You know, I just use Cactus for a lot of them, also like Snapdragon and Wasabi Whip, but whatever. Anyway, with zombie boss out of the way, let's continue on to the final, as we're recording this, world, the Assault Airspace. Alright, victory. He's just...
Oh, poop.
Welcome to the Assault Airspace, an altered version of history and time known as the Great March. Now, there is a lot of gimmicks to go over, so let's go over them one by one, starting with the lawn itself. With our home being a flying air fortress, it gives us 3 lows of ground to work on, with the rest of them being in the air, only allowing flying plants, such as flower pea here for example, to be planted on. Another thing to note is the way I lose in this world. So, instead of the zombies trying to get inside of my house as they have in every other level, instead they try to take down the airship itself using their blowtorches, lowering the house's HP. When that bar empties, I lose, causing them to fully take down my ship. And lastly, to help with this flying swarm, I have access to an automatic cannon, which will fire up the closest zombie to my house. Additionally, I'm given a new power-up that allows me to target anywhere on the map to fire multiple cannons at once, with it going on cooldown afterwards. And while this is functionally a power-up, I'm allowing myself to use it because it's an integral part of the world and allowing me to beat it, because a lot of the levels are designed around you using it. And with all that out of the way, the level is finished, and then we can continue on. Day 2 introduces the cloud gimmick, which are basically permanent lily pads, allowing me to plant ground plants in the sky rows, which is quite useful for defending my home. And I also unlock a new flower, Asparagus, who is based off an asparagus, and their main gimmick is firing Malanes in, along with the ones above and below it, but after firing a certain amount of times, they will overheat and go on cooldown before firing again. And they are quite useful, and you'll be seeing me use them in basically every level in this world. And lastly, this level introduces the gunship, who uses a submachine gun to fire both my plants and my house. And once it reaches my home, it will fly away and move to a new lane. And right now, they can take down my flowers if I don't act quick enough, but I was still able to beat the level and continue on. Day 3 was a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 4 is also a locked and loaded level, so once again, skip. Day 5 introduces my next 2 flower, Puffapple, who is based off a pineapple. And while they are not a flower themselves, they come from a flowering plant, putting them in the same category as block glue. And their main gimmick is, well, being a wall plant, with the ability to fly as well. And along with being able to reflect projectiles like the gunship's bullets. But will go on cooldown after a while, and once again, you'll be seeing me use them a lot within this world. And this level also introduces the Pelican aircraft, which will spawn imps on any of the ground tiles of my home. We'll walk backwards until they reach the end, jumping off. Which also means I'll have to bring a backwards attacking plant in order to deal with these imps before they eat my entire defense. And even with this new threat, and the level only allowing 18 plants to be planted, it was very much beatable, so let's move on. Day 6 introduces the Twin Fighter Zombie, who takes up 2 rows of space, and they won't go down unless both sides are destroyed, with the already destroyed side being a meat shield and just blocking all the damage. And if they come into contact with any plant, they'll ram into them, basically killing them unless they're a wall plant. And if they manage to reach my home, they will charge into it, dealing massive damage to it, which is quite an issue. But once again, even with this 2-road space threat, this level is beaten, so we can continue on. Day 7 forces most non-flower plants into my team, only giving me both Cattail and Striking Violet for the plants I was able to use. So bringing along Primal Sunflower, Asparagus, and Puff Apple myself to try to beat this level. And Striking Violet was quite useful with weakening all the tankier zombies this level throughout, giving my attackers a much easier time, and allowing me to beat the level. Day 8 has me protect 2 Puff Apples, but it also introduces the Scientist zombie as well, who uses a plasma gun to fire at my plants to give them either a positive or negative charge. And depending on the results of what he fires, they get a different reaction, which I'll go over now. If 2 negatives are fired, they will paralyze the plant for a short time. If a positive and negative is fired, it will chill a plant for a short time. 2 positives will make a plant slowly take damage, killing any non-wall plants. And while most of these effects can be an issue, as long as they hit a wall plant, I'll be fine. And using Cactus, this level was easily beaten and allowing me to continue on. Day 9 is just a gimmick level, but it is an on-rail shooter, which is really impressive that the devs managed to program this in. It's a Plants vs. Zombies 2 of all things, so really good job, devs, but skip and let's move on. Day 10 features tons of gunship imps, but this level was over fairly quickly, making it quite easy, even with the Gargantua it threw at me at the end, so let's continue on. Day 11 has the Rot take over all the ground rows, leaving me with only the clouds to plant on, so using Cattail alongside Asparagus so I have full attacking range all over the lawn, this level was beaten with almost no damage dealt to the house, so let's continue on. Day 12 is just the mini-boss level, so skip. Day 13 introduces the Gas Wave Ambush, which will spawn gas pod imps, who will spew out toxic gas in a 3x3 area, damaging plants over time. But they deal so little damage and have so little health, they tend to not be a threat most of the time. And this level wasn't too much of a challenge, so let's move on. Day 14 introduces the Commando Zombie, who has a missile launcher, by the way, and will either fire directly at my plant, which can be reflected by Puff Apple, or do a lob shot, which will always hit my house. And this level wasn't too hard even with this new rocket launching threat, so let's move on. Day 15 is a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 16 has me protect a row of flowers, along with spawning a ton of Pelican aircraft in order to have the imps walk over those flowers. And there were tons of stressful moments within this level. Imps getting close to the flowers, but me being able to kill them before it was too late. So I was still able to beat the level and come out on top, and continue on. Day 17 introduces the Stealth Fighter Zombie, who takes up 3 rows of space, along with any zombie around it becoming invisible, basically making them unable to be damaged until they leave the area of the effect or the Stealth Fighter is killed. And just like the Twin Fighters, if they manage to reach the house, they will charge into it, dealing massive damage. And this level did give me some issues, but even with this new threat, I still managed to beat it and can continue on. Day 18 is a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 19 has me not lose more than 17 plants, so using Cactus alongside Asparagus and Puff Apple, this was beaten without too much of an issue. Day 20 has me protect 2 Peagle Pods from this flying horde. And this level was quite easy because of the endangered plants actually being quite beneficial because they're actually really good plants. And along with bringing along Dandelion, this level was easily beaten. Day 21 is another on-rail shooter level, so skip. Day 22 is a planar defense level, so once again, skip. Day 23 just spawns airstrikes for the level, which will kill the plant on the tile it hits, but this level wasn't much of a threat even with the airstrike, so let's just move on. And a Q green screen airstrike. MP4. Day 24 is a locked and low level, so skip. Day 25 is just the Zomboss fight. Actually, it even isn't the Zomboss fight, it's actually the General Camo Boss fight, who is the main villain in this world. But that doesn't really matter to the challenge. And, guess now I talk about the world, and I really liked it. I might just give this the title of most peak for both game design-wise and on a technical-wise, because they have to program all of this from the ground up, because, for context, this world is from the Chinese version, and they weren't able to just port everything. They had to reprogram everything from the ground up. So, yeah. And with General Camo now dead, the Assault Airspace isn't beaten, and I can finally say this challenge has been completed. So, let's continue on to the end. Wow, Camo, that was a joke. And so, the challenge is finally over. So in the end, there are 7 long parts, over a dozen worlds later, and 3 months of hard work, and probably thousands of flowers planted. Can you beat Plants vs. Zombies 2 Reflourish with only flowers? Yes. In total, I played for a grand total of 575 levels, and well, almost all of them were possible, or either locked and loaded, conveyor belt, or planar defense levels. There were some levels that I deemed to be impossible on the first run-through of it, and with those levels being Ancient Egypt Days 1 through 3, Dark Ages Night 14, 24, and 29, Holiday Mashup Day 46, and Carnivorous Carnival Night 8. Making that total to 8 impossible levels out of 575 total. Also making a total of 567 possible levels. And for the worlds themselves, throughout this challenge, I've been putting the worlds on a tier list, ranking them from the worst to best. And here's the finished product of it all. Hope you'll like it, and if you disagree with my opinions, I don't know. And additionally, here's a tier list, ranking every flower I used within this challenge I made in a different stream. All ranked by how much I used them and how useful they were. And to also break a bit away from the script, thank you all so much for watching this. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching this. Will I ever make another flowers only challenge? Probably, but probably not for like at least a couple of months. And like, when I originally posted that first video, all the way back in like 3 months ago, I did not expect it to bring me to this point and to do that well. I mean, it brought me to over 1,000 subscribers. Like, it also allows me to make money now. That's cool. I like money. Yeah. Do kind of wish some other videos do well, but eh, winners can't be choosers. But yeah, once again, thank you all so much for sticking around for this. In about a month's time, I'll be posting the super compilation of everything all in one part, without the intros and outros of most of the parts, besides like the first part, and the outro of this part. And we'll probably change it, you know. But with that being said, I'm gonna stop keeping your attention here. Once again, thank you all so much for watching this series and going with it through me, and I hope you all have a lovely day/night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!